Well, hello again. Good to see you once again. Today I bring you a harness racing strategy in the hard and soft bot. Now you might remember from earlier videos in the year that I introduced you to hard and soft staking and then the hard and soft bot, which uses the hard and soft staking. Today I'm going to show you a harness racing strategy that I'm using in the hard and soft bot. Now this is looking at low priced favorites, and if I just take you into the bot for a moment, you can see here in fact the low price favorites between 1 and 3. Now those of you who remember some of the previous videos on hard and soft staking might recall that I normally consider prices over 2 to be important for hard and soft staking, because that way any win you have automatically overcomes any loss that you had previously. If you're getting prices that are under 2, then you're not necessarily recovering losses with each win, so you have to do a bit more work to recover losses and get ahead. But low-priced Australian harness favourites have a very good strike rate, and that does tend to mean that even if you're getting a number of low-price favourites winning, you build up enough of a head of steam eventually that you do get ahead and can have some nice results from it. So that's what I've been doing since about the end of May, so a number of months now, a good 3 months plus, and the results have been quite encouraging. So we'll go back into the bot for a moment, and you can see at the moment the current period is down, and that does happen from time to time. You can't expect to profit every period, but over the long run I'm seeing this actually working out quite well. And if I show you the results spreadsheet here, you can see over the course of the last few months I have managed to make $178 profit there off some very small stakes. Well, it started off with a base stake of 10 cents and I've now upped it to a base stake of 30 cents. The current period I'm on a 60 cents base stake, but I've been adjusting these stakes based on results as I've gone. Now, as I was saying, you can't expect to have a profit every period, so I did count through these periods earlier. There are in fact 9 periods in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in fact, 8 periods in there that are down. It'll be 9 today because there's only, as I record this, there's 2 races left for the day. It's not going to recover that entire amount there, so there'll be 9 down once this finishes here, out of, what have we got here, 37, so 38. So there'll be 9 negative results out of 38, which means that the vast majority of the periods have in fact been up. 29 if my maths is working at this moment in time. The reason that this usually works quite well is, as I said, the strike rate for harness racing is quite good when we're looking at low priced favourites. So in the ANZ analyzer here, I've got data going back to the beginning of February last year, so we're looking at a little over a year and a half of data. Australian harness favourites paying between 1 and 3, strike rate there of 50%. Now, as you can see here from this graph, if we were doing level staking, this would not work out. It simply doesn't work at level staking. However, with hard and soft staking, it can be made to work. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing harness favourites and not thoroughbred favourites, and I'll just show you that. If I go in here in the analyzer and go and change the settings here over to the thoroughbreds, we'll see that the strike rate for the thoroughbreds is actually quite a bit different. So there we can see the strike rate there is 45% for the thoroughbred favourites, paying between 1 and 3. Now that 5% difference makes quite a bit of difference when you're talking about a progressive staking plan, and with hard and soft staking it makes a bit of a difference. Having the 50% on the harness racing tends to work out a fair bit better. So we go back into the bot here and just see as there's a bet on as I speak, second last race of the day here, favourite Collie paying 282. So we'll see what's happened there. Now the stake there, as you can see, $7.80 off a 60 cents base, so you can see that tab's obviously had to work a bit. Let's have a look through the tabs at the moment. We can see tab 1 is a 497 profit, tab 2 a 354 profit, tab 3 a 392 profit, tab 4 currently down 45.30, and tab 5 is up 429. Now I have the bot set to loss prioritization, which means that whichever tab is most in need of a profit, basically whichever tab has the lowest balance at that point in time, is the one that gets the bet. This generally works well for hard and soft staking because it means that you get your winning runs going in a tab that needs it, and then once it gets ahead of one of the other tabs, then that other tab can take over again. So if we have a look back at the bottom of the results list, going back to the start of the period on Friday, we can see it started off in tab 1, it had a win there, so it moved on to tab 2 and it stayed there for a little while. Then it went to tab 3, tab 4. We see it back in tab 2 here. Probably what happened here was tab 5, it had a bet there, it got a little delayed. In fact, we can see that is the case. Tab 5 had a Hobart race at 5:40 in the evening. The tab 2 got a 5:45 p.m. race, so tab 2 just happened to result first. So it sat in tab 5 for a while and then came back to tab 4 and has continued on through there. We can see the cumulative profit tab here, column here. We have had some good results, so up to what, 6.32 at one stage there in this period. In fact, up over $10 at one stage. Then tab 4's had a bit of a horror run, which unfortunately does happen sometimes. With even with 50% strike rate, you do unfortunately have bad runs sometimes, but the good runs tend to make up for it. And we can see it's still got this race at Collie in play at the moment. You can see though this tab here was at one stage down 53.10, it's currently down 45.30, so it has recovered a little bit of ground here after this quite horror run. Now if I just show you, I'm actually not running a stop loss here, so I've got it set to continue without restart, so it just blows through these numbers if it has to. There is a reason for that. The hard and soft staking system, I tend to think, is reasonably safe on its own, but because I'm running half-week periods, so Monday to Thursday and Friday to Sunday, which roughly breaks the week in half in terms of race volume, I'm effectively setting myself a point where I do have to break the cycle anyway. So as I say, this is not going to fully recover by the end of this period, even if it wins the last two races of the day. Regardless, I will pull it up at the end of that period anyway. So it will start again, start from scratch for the new period. I call this sort of room to breathe. I'm giving it room to breathe over this period. I will cut it off if I have to at the end of the period, but during the period I'm giving it room to breathe. And I want to just show you a recent period where the room to breathe worked out really well. So here we have the results from the period finishing on the 25th of September, and you can see a $19.95 profit, with the starting stake in the hard and soft sequence being $1.20. Now, this one was a rather interesting example, I think, of why I give this room to breathe, as you can have some times that start with, or even just have somewhere in the middle of it, a day where things just don't go well. Favourites just won't win. But then it recovers later on. So if we have a look here at, go right back to the bottom of this, and you can see this has started off in a terrible way. You can see there's pretty much mostly tab 1 because, well, tab 1 has done quite poorly here for a while. There was a race in tab 2 which, looking at this, would have just been an overlap rather than the bot deliberately choosing tab 2. It would have gone to tab 2 because tab 1 was busy. But you can see just there's a winner here, but otherwise there's a lot of losses and only a small smattering of winners. And you can see where the position is getting to here. Yeah, minus $70 by 6 p.m. That's interesting. Ideal Andy lost here in Canberra. Oh yes, I was at that meeting. I saw Ideal Andy lose that race. I didn't think it would win it either. But the bot on its selections, it had it there. You can see this continues like this for some time. In fact, getting to a rather precarious position here, minus 111 after Pinjarra at 7:27 that evening. But then it recovers, and in fact you can see a little bit of the recovery is that night. The majority of the recovery is the next day. Here we are looking at the 23rd, and you can see it recovers quite quickly actually and starts seeing other tabs. So, and you can see it moves about a fair bit over the next few days, but overall it recovers. So it had the room it needed to recover. So have a look at tab 1 here, and you can see a lot of activity in tab 1 because it had that really long run, so it needed the time to have an opportunity to recover it. And you can see the last bet in tab 1 was actually on the 23rd. This tab got to $2.64 profit. The other tabs ended up taking up the work after that. Tab 2 fits entirely on one screen. $2.45 profit in the end. Tab 3, $4.71 profit. Tab 4, $6.19 profit. And tab 5, $3.96 profit. Now I'm only using 5 tabs for this strategy, but I think you sort of get the picture of why I like to give some room to breathe here. And I have 5 tabs running so that there's always an opportunity to spread out the winners as well once you do start getting into a better period. But this does help to guard against some of these worse periods by giving it the time that it might need to recover. So that ended up working out quite well, even though it was down a fair way at one stage. By giving it that room to breathe, the hard and soft staking strategy, once it gets a bit of a head of steam and a winning run, it can recover its position quite quickly. And in that case, as you can see in the spreadsheet here, that period, ending the 25th of September, ended up 1995. We've since had a 1974 win the following period, and an 871 off a much smaller base stake the period after. We're now in this period just following that, and this one's going to end up slightly down, but overall we're seeing it work out quite well. There we go. So in fact, let's just have a look. Remember, just before I took you to the room to breathe demonstration, we had a race running at Collie. We were on the favourite there, of course, number 5, Feeling Aces, paying $2.82, and that has actually won. So tab 4 has just recovered from being down 45.30 to being down 32.39. There's one race left to go. So as I say, it's not going to fully recover its position, but it is certainly better than it was. Overall now the bot is down 15.67 for the period, compared to just beforehand where it was down 28.58. So it's actually worth noting that prior to that we had a win that got us into a position of being down 20.78. So this one win here at Collie has not only recovered the previous loss but got us into a better position than the previous win. And that's one of the great benefits of the hard and soft staking plan, and which is why this tends to work for the harness racing, even though level staking wouldn't. I do need to show you how to make the bot select just harness racing, because it's a little bit fiddly. If we have a look in the bot here, you can see there's a box here for allow harness. This allows it to put harness racing in the list, but it doesn't automatically exclude non-harness races. So I have a little bit of a process that I go through to do that, and I'm just going to show that to you now. Alright, so here we are in the hard and soft bot on a Monday morning. It's still fairly early in the morning. It's just after 7 in the morning, Eastern Australian time. And there's some races loaded, as you can see. A few venues, 3 of them. But everything we've got here at the moment is a gallops race. It's all thoroughbreds. And you can tell it's not harness racing because harness races all have either the word pace or the word trot in their description. None of these do. So you can just tell based on that. Now, I want to remove these races and these venues for that matter, and the bot will automatically reload the race list as the day goes on, but it will not put back in any venues that I've removed or any races that I've removed. Now that sounds simple enough, except there's an extra consideration. I'm running the bot for multiple days, so I need to be sure that, for example, Wagga doesn't have harness racing later in the week, or maybe later in the day. I have seen occasions where usually there's at least once a week I'll see a venue will have both a gallops meeting and a harness meeting in the same week. I've seen one occasion a couple of weeks ago where it was either Ballarat or Bendigo had a gallops meeting, a dogs meeting and a harness meeting all on the same day. So need to take care to do that. So I use 2 websites for that, and I'll show you that in a sec. But firstly, I'll just quickly run you through the timing of how these events unfold in Betfair. So I'm beholden a bit to the time frame that Betfair add the markets in, make the markets available. Now, Australian gallops meetings, for the most part, are loaded into Betfair by the previous night. Some of the smaller meetings will show up in Betfair somewhere around mid-morning Australian Eastern Time. A couple of the very small meetings, or sometimes some of the evening meetings, they might not show up until maybe early afternoon at the latest, but they're normally in by late morning. The harness meetings are very rarely in the previous night. They usually show up somewhere around mid-morning, somewhere around 9 or 10 in the morning. Sometimes it'll take till 11 or 12 in the morning. But the gallops meetings are generally in before the harness meetings. So I've got 2 websites I use to help me with this. The first one is the harness racing meeting calendar on the harness racing website, as you can see there, harness.org.au/rating/meeting-calendar. The other one I use is RaceNet, their form guide for horse racing. Now, RaceNet may be not strictly required. I find it useful though because it gives me a quick list of all of the gallops meetings for the day. This is useful because I can compare this to what I've got in the bot, and if I've got all of these meetings, then I know that I can just remove the gallops meetings. I don't have to think about whether there's any more to come. But as I said a few moments ago, some of the times the gallops meetings will show up a little bit later in the morning, so it's good to know that, you know, maybe I've got 3 of them, but maybe there's a 4th and I don't have that one yet, so I know that I still have to come back and remove that a little bit later on. So let's get started. We'll go back into the bot, go to the venue tab, and I can see at the moment I've got Kilmore, Wagga and Bunbury. Well, let's have a look. That is this list here. So all of the gallops meetings for the day are already in. So once I've removed those, I don't need to think about it again today. That's done. Now, in the harness racing list, well, those three, Kilmore, Wagga and Bunbury, they don't have races today, so that's fine. Kilmore, Wagga and Bunbury, not tomorrow, not Wednesday, not Thursday. So that's fine. I can remove all of those. My period here is Monday to Thursday and then Friday to Sunday, as I've said previously. So there is a meeting at Wagga, a harness meeting at Wagga on Friday, but that's in the next period. I'll have reopened the bot by then, so it doesn't matter. The meetings that I remove from the bot will not show up again until I close and reopen the bot. So I will remove these from the venue tab here. I go back into the race tab. They're still here at the moment. The next time the bot automatically reloads, they will disappear, but I'll just force it to reload anyway. So I'll click reload back one and they're gone. Simple as that. And they're also gone from the venue tab. So I can't actually put them back in. That's why it's important that I don't untick one that's going to be further down in the week, because once it's gone, it doesn't come back into the venue tab unless I close and reopen the bot. But closing and reopening the bot will break my staking cycle, so I don't want to do that either. So just a little bit of work on that. So that's it for today. I mean, it's only a few moments worth of work, but it is something I do each morning. Now, tomorrow, if I just go to the RaceNet website, tomorrow there's a gallops meeting at Tamworth, and you might have noticed Thursday there's a harness meeting at Tamworth. So I will be able to show you tomorrow how I deal with that, because that I don't want to remove the entire venue from the list. So I'll show you how I deal with that. So that's coming up in a moment. So about 9:45 Monday morning, and you can see in the bot here we have two of the harness venues in. You can see, as I was saying, Pace and Trot, designating the harness races. So we've got Charlton and Albion Park. So that's two of our four for the day, one of the daytime ones, one of the nighttime ones, still the other two to come in, but as the bot goes through reloading automatically the race lists and Betfair adds them into the markets that are available, they'll start to show up and the bot will be able to bet on them. Okay, Tuesday morning, around 9:30 in the morning, so we may have all of today's gallops in by now, but we still need to remove the meetings that won't have any harness action. So I'll start here and see what we've got in terms of gallops today. Cairns, Grafton, Tamworth, Tatura. Cairns, Grafton, Tamworth, Tatura. Well, that's all of them. So we have our full list of gallops in already, which is good. It means that once we've dealt with this, we won't have to come back and deal with it again today. So let's have a look and see what we have. So let's see, Tatura and Grafton. So today they're not in, nor tomorrow, nor the next on the harness racing. So Tatura and Grafton can both come out. Tamworth and Cairns. Well, neither today, neither tomorrow, but we do have Tamworth on Thursday for harness racing. No Cairns though, so I can get rid of Cairns, it's fine. Tamworth though, I can't remove the meeting from here. So let me just hit reload on this, just to force it to update with the current list. And oh, there we go, there's some harness racing coming in already as well. So there's a few of our harness meetings for today coming in as well. We can see I've still got Tamworth in here, still got today's gallops at Tamworth. Well, I can't remove the whole meeting, because if I remove Tamworth as a venue, then on Thursday Tamworth harness won't show up in here. So instead I'll just go through it and I'll manually remove the individual Tamworth races for today. So we've got Tamworth race 1, race 2, race 3, race 4, race 5, race 6, race 7. Doesn't look like there's any more. I'll just confirm that. Indeed, just 7 races, Tamworth Gallops, so those are all unticked there. So just leaving them unticked like that. I'm not sure if they still show up upon the next reload or not. If they just stay there unticked. They stay there unticked, so that's fine. With them unticked, the bot will ignore them, and with Tamworth still existing as a venue, on Thursday, when Tamworth is next here as a venue for harness racing, the Tamworth harness races will show up and the bot will be able to bet on them. So now we skip forward to Thursday morning, and we're looking at just before 10 AM here, and we can see the list is filling out pretty well already for today. And oh look, there's Tamworth. Tamworth is loaded in for that harness meeting today, because the Tamworth Gallops meeting we only removed the individual races, not the entire venue, so that's good there. So same process as normal for today. We'll just have a look here. So Kalgoorlie, Newcastle, yep, Dalby and Geelong, they're all in, that's good. Now it's the last day of the period today, because it's Thursday, because we do the Monday to Thursday, and then the next period's Friday to Sunday, so I don't need to worry about whether any of these will be later on in the week, because today is the last day of the period. So as long as none of today's Gallops meetings happen to also coincide with a harness meeting, which they don't, then we're good to just go straight through and remove these. So Kalgoorlie can go, Newcastle can go, Dalby and Geelong can also go. So I'll just go back over here, we'll hit the reload button, and we see what we're left with is a nice list of just harness meetings for today. So we've got Tamworth, Albion Park, Ballarat, Penrith. So we've got 4 of them in, and in fact that is the entire 4 for the day. So that is good news. Now, I did want to show you there is one slight exception to this normal process for me, and that's Saturday morning, because Saturday has a bazillion Gallops meetings. You can see there's, what have we got listed for this Saturday? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 Gallops meetings this Saturday, sometimes there's even more than that. And if we look at Saturday here, all of the harness racing on Saturday is at night. See the N indicating it being a night meeting. So Betfair can be a little bit slow to get some of these later Gallops meetings in. Kalgoorlie will probably be in reasonably early. Darwin might not show up until quite late in the morning, maybe early afternoon. And some of these smaller meetings, smaller Victorian or New South Wales meetings, for example, might not show up until later in the morning. So rather than checking to see if all of these meetings are in and coming back and taking them out again later, what I do on a Saturday morning is I hit the stop button in the bot. Now the stop button will stop the bot, but it remembers where it's up to in the staking. It only forgets that if you close the bot. So I press the stop button to prevent it from betting on any of the Gallops meetings that may have loaded in. I may very well go through in the morning and remove whatever Gallops meetings I can, but what I will do then is in the afternoon, somewhere after 3 in the afternoon, none of these harness meetings are going to start until at least 5 in the evening probably, usually later, usually closer to 6. But sometime late in the afternoon I'll come through and then I'll do this process. That way I can be sure I've got all of the Gallops meetings in to remove them, and I'll know that none of these harness meetings will have started yet, so it's an easier way to do that. Sometimes Wednesdays could be done that way, but as you can see, there's some day meetings on some of these days. But Wednesdays are sometimes only night meetings, but Wednesday I'm happy to do just the normal way. Saturday I definitely want to make the exception. Now, here's a rare one where Narrogin is going to be a day meeting, but time zone difference for this. Narrogin being in WA, don't know what time that will start just yet, but that's in Western Australia, so it probably isn't going to start until at least midday in the local time zone there, which is going to be at least 3 PM in the time zone here. So I can still more or less run this same thing. If I'll hit stop in the morning, I'll probably come back a little bit earlier in the afternoon when I have a reasonable confidence that all of the Gallops meetings are in, and then do the process and then hit start in the bot. You can see it's very rare that there's a day meeting on a Saturday. It's almost unheard of. That one is very unusual. So it is a little bit of a rigmarole to get it to just bet on the harness racing, but I think it's worth the effort. And it's really nice that a harness racing strategy that would not work at level staking can be made to work with hard and soft staking in the hard and soft bot. Obviously, not every period is going to end up in positive territory, but most of them do, and over the long run it works out, which I think is really nice. Let's just go back into the bot for a moment. I want to show you the settings again just to see where we're at now. As I said, just Australian harness racing. New Zealand harness racing suffers from very low liquidity and doesn't have the Betfair SP available, so there's a risk of not getting matched or only getting partially matched. And now that New Zealand bettors don't have access to Betfair, the liquidity on New Zealand harness racing has really just dropped off a cliff, so it's just not viable. Australian harness racing, plenty of liquidity, even on some of the smaller meetings, some good liquidity. I'm using 5 tabs for this. I find that tends to be a pretty good number. It means I've always got enough tabs for, even if there's some delays happening, while also not constantly using all of the tabs, so they all have a little bit of room to breathe. I'm not putting too much stress on any one tab. We're looking, as I said, the win market, first favourite between 1 and 3. I'm going at 10 seconds before the race, placing the Betfair SP if we don't get matched. $1,000 minimum matched on this, which is about £500, so if you're in pounds then about 500. I've got commission set to 9%, then whatever your starting stake is here, I'm using loss prioritization mode and then just ignoring, so continue boxes ticked for the profit targets and the continue with restart for the stop loss, because I'm not using a stop loss for this. As I said, the half weeks are my stop loss for this. And then all of these here, all of these bet types, race types allowed, and I'm then going through that process to remove the non-harness racing. So I think that's working quite well. Hopefully that works well for you. There is of course a link to the hard and soft bot in the description below. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. I'll have another video soon which will be a little bit off topic, but I think you'll find it quite interesting. So until then, happy punting.